Yeah, we're good to go. We can start, Ravi, sir.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of SCM Talk Show in Season 3. As you know, we had Season 1 and Season 2 earlier, and we had the last episode was on 4 pillars of supply chain management. This episode is of relevance to all the SCM process, to the S&OP processes, post-pandemic processes, and so on. Topics we choose from your responses to the survey that we have sent and availability of good speakers. We have to put both together to be able to plan a session. So this session, as Nistush already said, the session is being recorded, and this recording will be made available to you on KnoWerX mobile app as well as YouTube, I believe, isn't it? Available on YouTube, right?
That's correct.
Oh,
It's available on
yeah,
the KnoWerX YouTube page.
the YouTube page also. Right. So similar to our earlier practice, we are putting everyone on listen only mode. And I'm sure you would have some questions to ask, when we are speaking, when we are chatting. So if you have any questions, you can put in the chat box immediately, or you can wait till the end. And depending on the availability of the time towards the end of the session, we will take some questions, and we'll take some questions which are asked by most people. That is how we'll start. So let me start the session. First, I'll introduce Mr. Vipul Jain. It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Vipul Jain. Vipul, as I call him, is a highly acclaimed S&OP process specialist. He has had a long career of 24 years in organizations like textile industry, Accenture, Colgate Palmolive, Mondelez, Cipla. Currently, he is associate director, global lead supply chain digital transformation at Cipla. He recently led a massive project of implementing SAP IBP and transforming the entire planning process. So from educational background, he's an MBA with engineering background. His experience spans manufacturing as well as supply chain automation. As we all know, the success of any project depends on success of successful change management. And Vipul is a change management expert to ensure that projects are successful, they're successfully executed. So welcome, Mr. Jain.
Thank you, Ravi sir. Thank you for the nice introduction, and thank you to you and KnoWerX team for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts today. Definitely a good pleasure for me to interact with you, and you are the host. I mean, definitely I'm feeling privileged.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you for, in fact, accepting our invitation to share your practice oriented insights with our listeners. So I will start shooting questions one by one to you.
Sure.
So can you please explain to our listeners what happened to S&OP process during pandemic, especially during initial phase of lockdown? As we all know that S&OP is a planning tool for long term. And when the pandemic started, when the lockdown started, the entire visibility became zero. The plan became zero. No one knew where we are going to go, how much time it is going to take for pandemic, and so on. So we had no clarity, zero clarity, in fact, at all about what future is going to be. So, so what happened to the S&OP process? That you usually monthly review, budgetary review, and all of that.
Definitely, Ravi sir, as you rightly said, the pandemic was definitely a big disruption the industry has ever seen. So before I share my thoughts over here that what has happened, uh, I mean, whatever I'm sharing today is purely from my experience and my personal views, and some of things I have learned from you as of my guru as well, sir. And one of the thing what has happened during the pandemic is that the demand has fluctuated a lot. When the first lockdown was introduced, there is no industry who has not suffered have seen that kind of a demand fluctuation. And it was not only the demand fluctuation, it was more of a supply fluctuation as well, because there were demand were to some extent stable, or there was demand, but the supply constraints were so high. As a result, there was a big mismatch in the demand and supply. So the whole supply chain itself is nothing but matching demand and supply, as we all know. However, during the pandemic, this type of disruption was the peaks and lows were quite high. But now, what has happened? Actually, let me share that what exactly the world has seen in last 2 years. The first thing is that people have realized that okay, there is a set of essential things and there is a set of non-essential things. That was the initial phase of the organization, the pandemic, and people have realized that okay, my food, my shelter, my water, my electricity are these are the basic needs which any individual has as a human being, and the rest of the everything is secondary, and can hold, can wait. But what realize is that it is not true. It is not true to the extent, because everything is having a time factor. These essential things we are talking about, the grocery and everything, might be a basic need at the start for first few days, for first 7 days or 10 days. But what after 1 month? What after a week? What after 1 month? What after 1 quarter? What after 6 months? In fact, everything become a basic need even over and above the grocery and food. Sometimes, we have seen that sometimes the medicine become more important. Sometimes even the even your refrigerator get on breakdown, become a more priority. And people have realized that no, it is not about only that. There is something more. If your device, your mobile device or your laptop is not working, and you need immediately a new, you will say that I am okay to fast for 2 days, but I need a device replaced. So what I want to say is that, in fact, this is true for everything, and everything can wait for a time period. And nobody has predicted that this, what will the size and shape of the lockdowns is going to be. Nobody in the world have a clear view about that. Now, what the organization will do, because every day was a new day. Every day the new news are coming. Sometimes the lockdowns are having a relaxation. Sometimes the re-lockdown are introduced. The wave is expanding. The wave 2 is coming. The wave 3 will come or not. Everything was full of uncertainty. Now only one thing is common, that how much flexibility and the, the S&OP process maturity the individual organization has. And the organization which have that maturity level to great extent, they have sailed through this pandemic tough time smoothly, comparatively smoothly, compared to their counterparts. I'll give you an example of Amul. If you have seen the Amul, if you see their ice cream portfolio was completely low demand. In fact, myself has not taken any cold products during the pandemic for 1 year. Only tea, coffee, or hot milk, not even a cold water. So, but on the other hand, their other portfolio, which is milk portfolio or the curd portfolio, has seen an upsurge in the demand. Now, it is the Amul flexibility to convert their ice cream manufacturing capacity and ice cream distribution capacity to convert into milk and other portfolios, which is having a surge in the demand. Now, organization, can it be done overnight? Might not be, unless until you have done that level of preparation of flexibility in your supply chain. You cannot done that flexibly. Some organizations have able to do that, some are not. But one thing is key, came out very clearly, is that effectiveness of S&OP process and maturity of the supply chain processes is the key differentiator, which is true in this type of disruptions and beyond. I cannot hear you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry. So thank you so much. So as you rightly said, if your mobile broke down and if your laptop broke down, especially if you're working from home, that became essential too. It was not that only food and grocery was essential. I would say luckily, since you are from pharma industry, you may have seen a not so much of a suppression of demand, but the other industries which have suppressed tremendously. And because of that, I think we have a certification program on risk and resilience that has also taken up a trajectory, and its demand is increased because organizations have realized that we need to mitigate risk, we need to be resilient. So that has happened. Now my question is, since long-term planning was out of question during pandemic, how companies planned? What did they do in terms of planning?
So Ravi sir, actually, to answer your first question, that it is assumed that pharmaceutical industry have not faced the demand fluctuation during, or less compared to others, but that is not 100% true, because at a aggregate level it seems right, because from the revenues point of view, the pharmaceutical industry was right. But if you see the shift in the product portfolio, it was a very great shift. If you see the portfolio which we pharmaceutical industries used to plan in a regular year, compared to the product portfolio they have sold in the pandemic year, is a great shift. And that was a very biggest challenge for the pharmaceutical industry, because it is not about their revenue at the target at a stake, because it was a humanity at a stake, and the pressure from the society, the pressures from the government, and the need to make available what is needed rather than what we can produce, or what we can make it available in a routine year, was a great shift. So in fact, many organizations, even FMCG, if you see the product portfolio of FMCG industry has shifted. So more or less, this has impacted every industry. Yes, in from the top line perspective, it might not have impacted, but if you see at a SKU level or at a product family level, there was a great shift, and definitely it was require a lot of resilience in our supply chain as a pharma industry as well. So that is the first part of the question. And the second part of your question is that whether the long-term planning has uh, any role in the situation like pandemic or not. Actually, the role of long-term planning will never go away. And the the need is that definitely every organization have a long-term planning, a mid-term planning, and a short-term operational planning. And the organization which make a very right balance between all the three is the key. Definitely your long-term plan might get shifted a little, need to be fine-tuned a lot, but the importance of everything, and one of the thing in the long-term planning is the building flexibility. And this type of flexibility which need in this type of pandemic or this type of disruptions is the need. In fact, this is something going to be continue in future. Organization need to be flexible, need to be agile, but at the same time, there should be a defined way that how we want to progress, and there should be the role of long-term planning will very much in place. The only thing is that how the different level of building blocks are tied together to have a long-term planning with the mid-term planning to the short-term operational plan.
So good actually explanation on that. So now, what is current situation after the pandemic is over? Are we back to regular S&OP planning, or are we still having forecast problems, uncertainty problems? What is the current situation for industry in general, not only pharma?
Definitely. Industry in general, definitely matured a lot during the pandemic. People have realized their hidden potential of managing the agility. The situation is very volatile in the industry, and if you see, but still, I feel that there is a lot of scope of improvement. In general, the few organizations are very way ahead, but most of the organizations are still have mediocre S&OP processes, and most of these organizations are engaged in day-to-day operational challenges. day-to-day firefighting, rather than focusing uh, on maturing their S&OP processes and system-related, you know, I'll say transformation, and bringing the agility and flexibility in their supply chain, uh, making the projects around that. People are doing it in silos, but still there is a big gap in the industry, and forecast is definitely going to be remain volatile. Uh, it will remain continue, and the challenges in the supply chain are still there. The China supplies are still disrupting. There are a lot of geopolitical issues and lot of local level issues. So the things are not normal yet, and expected to be continue in the same trajectory for some time more at least.
Thank you. So a new term which we are hearing, a new term called IBP, integrated business planning. Now, how it is different than S&OP? I'm not talking about SAP. SAP has 5 modules under IBP, S&OP being one of the modules. But in general, I think, is this IBP term going to replace S&OP? Is it the same? Is it the old wine, the new bottle, or what is it?
Definitely good question, sir. Actually, I mean, sometimes we use the words interchangeably, S&OP, IBP, but I think IBP stands for Integrated Business Planning. Now, integrated business planning as a concept, as you rightly said, is more important than any specific tool. So when we talk about integrated business planning, the word integrated is important. When we say integrated, what is the meaning of integrated? What is the depth and breadth of integrated? Are we talking about different functions in the organization? Are we talking about marketing, sales, procurement, finance integration, or are we talking about beyond? So integrated business planning is definitely a concept which is a backbone for effective S&OP actually. So what happens is that uh, the organization has a strategic plan, the budget plan, the tactical plan, the operational plan, all should be at one place, should be comparable, should be what is the delta between the all, and why this delta is, how we manage how we minimize this, and so we have effective. Let me give you an example of SAP IBP, which is again serving the need of integrated business planning as a process. Uh, Earlier it used to be SAP APO, which is now changed to the cloud-based SAP IBP. Now this tool is capable of bringing your tactical, operational, strategic planning in one system, budget planning in one system, also from the demand planning point of view, from the supply planning point of view, from the distribution planning point of view, and also closely integrated with your base ERP system in the backend. Now, what happens is that if you have an effective platform in place and you try to run your S&OP, all the information is readily available for effective decision making in S&OP meetings. So in short, to answer your question, S&OP is a concept, IBP is also a concept, but IBP is also supported by, for the big or medium to big organization, with a technology. The technology can be SAP or anything else, but the purpose is that it should provide all the necessary information and infrastructure for effective decision making in your S&OP conversations.
Great, great, wonderful. So I think IBP is a new term which is evolving now.
Yeah.
Now, one question I have is, a lot of organizations I know that don't have S&OP process, or even if they have S&OP process, they use it for routine planning, which is, I would call, production planning, or capacity planning, such kind of things. I'm not really for integrated business planning, if I may say that, right? So if you have to go and implement S&OP, in your experience, because you have done that several projects like that, what difficulties you face, and what are the challenges, and what are the solutions, and how it should be implemented?
So definitely it is an chicken and egg story. If your most of the managers and organization is tied up with firefighting and day-to-day operations, then very little time for this type of thinking and this type of strategic infrastructure building in the organization and process building. But I think uh, what organizations should do is that, and are doing, I believe that many organizations have started doing it, and many are at a different level of maturity in this journey. But the important is that uh, I mean, communicating the importance of this process throughout the organization. When I say throughout, it should be every level of the organization, every function of the organization should be involved, from finance to marketing to sales to supply chain to manufacturing to finance, and to HR to some extent, because every function should understand the importance of it. There should be a proper cadence setting. There should be proper stakeholder alignment, stakeholder identifications, and what is the frequency of these, what is the level of these discussions, what is the input, what is the output. There should be a big, I will say, transformation formal setup in place that we have to implement it, we have to adhere to it, and there should be a proper governance process around it, so that this will become a routine practice across the organization. I think you are on mute, sir.
Thank you. So, I was going to ask one question about demand-driven planning. There's a new concept which has come up, and I think that also has an S&OP, but it's a different S&OP. And some of the organizations which I saw, S&OP is done to reconcile demand and supply. But how about financial reconciliation? Is this being done, not being done, or what is it in your experience?
No, I mean, definitely this demand-driven supply chain or demand-driven planning or DDMRP kind of concepts are quite hot for quite some time now, about 3-4 years, I will say. But my personal feeling is that there are different strategy. Demand-driven planning is just one of the strategy. So one size doesn't fit all. Uh, there are there are uh, the strategies of planning strategies differ from industry to industry, company to company, product family to product family. So there are make to stock strategies, there are make to order strategies, there are combination of make to order and make to stock strategies, there are assemble to order strategies, there are engineering to order strategies, there are demand driven strategy, demand driven planning strategy is one of them. Now, which one suits for which case is a level of investigation. And in fact, the 4 5 which I have told, there are sub branches of these, and even in SAP terms, if you see, uh, there are about hundreds of standard strategies configured directly in the system of SAP ECC or MRP or APO or IBP. So, I mean, the technology support is great. The only thing is that, are we understanding our product characteristics? Are we understanding the technology availability? And are we ready to deep dive into what suits to what portfolio and are we using it? Just to give you an example, ITC, major FMCG company, has one of his brand is Ashirwad Atta. And can you believe that? They cannot adopt the same strategy for Ashirwada, which is highly selling, very fast moving product compared to their other product portfolio in the same FMCG sector. So they have altogether a different strategy to manage Ashirwada atta supply chain compared to their other products like shampoos and other, even uh, in the food industry. So in short, what I want to say is that yes, this is a very good concept, demand driven supply chain, but it is one of the various strategies. But need to be studied that which one suits well. I mean, this need require a little bit of a deep dive, that which suits to which particular set of product portfolio and which circumstances. I still believe that forecasting has a great future. Forecasting, we are, I mean, it is an easy way to say that, okay, I cannot predict or I cannot forecast because the world is so volatile and all these things are there. Now, world is always volatile and going to remain volatile, but still forecasting, the statistical forecasting, though, if you factor in all the, I will say, lagging indicators and leading indicators well, and use the AI and ML technologies in your future forecasting using the advanced algorithms, and factor in all the external factors including competitors moves and everything. I think even forecasting has its role to play. But yes, demand driven is also one of the strategies which can suits for some set of products.
Thank you. My other question was about financial reconciliation. How common it is to do financial reconciliation?
This is something again depends on the organization's maturity and S&OP's process maturity. Few organizations are doing it. What is their budget plan? How they are performing against budgets, and what is the differences are coming up and why the differences are coming up. Then they do the course correction and try to match their business plan, the budget plan, and the tactical and operational plans, and try to, if there is any discrepancy, they try to find the reasons and try to course correct in the future. So this is again something again very important, and I mean, definitely different level of maturity in the industry. Yeah.
So one thing about top management, I think I think every project we do, not only S&OP, every project we do, one thing, the success criteria is top management participation and involvement. And S&OP, because the process has to be not only driven, but owned, and every month the review has to be done by top management. How do you see this? Do organizations, I mean, top management get involved? Do they sit in training? Do they understand what this is? Do they take monthly meetings? Do they drive? What is it?
I mean, definitely, from my experience, yes, organizations, even top management is giving due importance of S&OP nowadays. The only thing is that whether it is a set process or whether it is ad hoc process, that is the only difference. Otherwise, every organization is doing it. The second level of maturity which I have seen is that whether it is having a very standard formats of discussions, whether it is technology is backed up, all the data is available during the discussions. That is another level of maturity which is varying across the organizations. But I mean, uh, whether the organizations have created a hierarchy of S&OP processes. So, for example, you have a separate demand S&OP meetings, supply S&OP meetings, capacity planning S&OP meetings, material planning S&OP meetings, vendor capacity planning S&OP meetings, and after that, there is an integrated S&OP which is pre-meeting to the executive S&OP. So, in executive S&OP, definitely the top management used to participate, they participate definitely, but the effectiveness of that also depends how much is the pre-work or the pre-meeting, and respective function specific S&OP meetings are done whether effectively or not, because the issues bring up to the executive team should be only which are really need their inputs, their long-term planning inputs, the differences between the business plan and the tactical plan. Those high-level decisions should come up in this meeting, not the operational issues. If we bring operational issues into the executive S&OP, then the effectiveness of the whole S&OP process will go for a toss.
Thank you. So a lot of companies I know don't have S&OP process, including the mid-sized organizations, and they don't have. So what is your advice to them? Why should they go and implement S&OP? What benefit they're going to get? And what they're losing if they don't implement S&OP?
I will say that it is must-have thing. Survival will also be depending on the effective S&OP. I will say that because the kind of cost pressure is coming throughout the industry is very high, and the need is to have effective S&OP process backed by technology. And why I'm saying is that some of the benefits people have to understand what is the benefit. The benefit is that it is the process, it is the cadence where your business plan, your technical plan, or your budget plan are concise together. Where exactly the differences are in a financial year, why those differences are, what are our assumptions made, why those assumptions are not true, what is the new assumptions we have to make. All those discussions, when we done in a very effective and formal way, the effectiveness of your output and decision making will be much higher compared to the ad hoc decisions you are making based on your day-to-day operation. That is number one. The second thing is that the other bigger benefit is that we will come out uh, from the reactive mode to the proactive mode, because the decisions will be definitely more proactive rather than the risk event is occurred. For example, I again debated in one of the conversation that when Amul was able to convert their ice cream supply chain into milk supply chain, is it possible overnight? Even a truck driver will not able to say that I will not carry this. I mean, there is a resistance at every stage, but definitely I will believe that the organization which think about this type of scenario planning, that if this will happen, what I will do, if what will be the scenario, and in this scenario, if my demand of one product portfolio will increase and other portfolio will define, how can my flexibly churn my supply chain in such a way that the disruption will be minimum at an organization level. And this type of outcome comes in effective S&OP conversations. You will get a good CI opportunity, that where exactly my continuous improvement opportunities lies. Just to give you an example, a particular component is failing, but some of the time in 10-15% of time and disturbing your whole supply chain, then you will came to know that where exactly my focus should be. I should develop this. I should improve this process of this component manufacturing, or I have to develop alternative vendor management to service this component, because this is unnecessary service disturbing my whole supply chain. So there are many benefits of having effective S&OP discussions, and last but not the least, the unified cross-functional aligned plan. if if the whole organization has one plan, the marketing to sales to finance to supply chain to manufacturing, everybody work on one defined plan, one defined operational plan, then definitely the resonance will come, and effectiveness and efficiency will come in the system, rather than everybody is coming on their own silos plan, which create bullwhip effect in the system and create inefficiencies.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, I would agree that if there's a small company, small owner, let's say 40, 50 employees, then the owner has everything in his head, everything integrated already. But as the organization size increases, okay, the focus, shifts there, departmentalized, compartmentalized, silo starts happening,
Right,
and you have to have some sort of an integration.
right.
Yeah. So we'll move to the next segment. Of this talk show, we usually go to over that segment. So we learn from your life, from your experiences, and this is quite exciting because, there are many listeners who would like to know about you, about your career, how does it shape, what did you do, how did you succeed, and so on. Because they are looking up to professionals like you to shape their career. So I would say that, I mean, how did you come into supply chain, field management in your life? Did you plan? Did you like it? Did you took some education, or it happened by accident, or so what happened?
Definitely very good question, sir. Actually, I mean, uh, fortunately, I mean, career is also always not by choice, but I am fortunate enough that definitely I have chosen supply chain as my function to work on. It is not by accident. Uh, and the reason is that I am the firm believer from the start that supply chains can make a difference, though it is realizing slowly in the world.
Pandemic has made it very obvious.
Pandemic is make it very obvious. Pandemic is made it very obvious, but I think few companies have realized it much earlier. Just to give you an example, the Toyota, the chip shortage which the automobile industry have experienced, but Toyota was the least sufferer with the chip shortage actually. I mean, they are the sufferer, but the impact to them was low. And and if you deep dive that, it is because of their supply chain maturity, and they have gone up to the level in the start itself in 2012, way 2012. Toyota is the company who is the firm believer of the lean, but they have changed the strategy. They've changed the strategy that no, it is not always true. It is not always work. And they did the risk management, that what are the risk management I should, what are the components which can cause my disruption, and they made a strategy around that. So in short, what I want to say that it is a different level of maturity and realization that how important the supply chain design is. But coming back to your question that how my career has shaped and why I chosen it. So if I give you one thing is that I always believe that whatever I do should be work for me, work for my function, work for my company, as well as for the society as a whole. So supply chain is one function where everybody's KPI is aligned. Everybody say that, okay, you have to improve your cost effectiveness. For improving cost effectiveness, I have to be, uh, my throughput of my supply chain should be better. My transportation cost should be better. My manufacturing cost should be low. And how I will do that? I will do that by optimal utilization of resources, whether it is transportation, truck transportation, whether it is my manufacturing, electricity consumption, water consumption, everything I have to reduce to make the same product, the same output and a better output. By doing so, my organization objective is also satisfied. My planet objective is also satisfied, and I feel privileged that I am contributing something which is good for the for everyone. And that's why I feel privileged to be in the supply chain function and how my career has shaped. So initially, I was definitely in the production floor. For initial 7-8 years, I started as a maintenance engineer and become a production manager. I have seen the things on the ground, how the worker thinks, how the production manager thinks, how the warehouse manager thinks, and I used to do all these things on till 1999 or 2000. We were not even having computers. We were having a log books to record all these things. Then I realized that this is good we are doing, but this is not the way. And then I learned about ERP is something. I did my certification in 2004 2005 in SAP production planning and shifted my career altogether. I moved to the consulting company and doing the ERP implementation for a global chemical company. And you can see a production guy who had never seen a laptop or a computer and become a consultant of a ERP implementation to a global MNC. So this is something, the shape. And then from there, I moved to the IT team as a business partner in multinationals like FMCG majors like Colgate Palmolive and Cadbury's Mondelez, where I used to did a lot of implementation in warehouse management, quality management, and and planning APO implementations, and realized that this is this immense potential. But after that, also I realized that there is a more of a push from the technology side rather than the pull from the supply chain leaders and supply chain manager. Then I see that I will become a supply chain manager or a leader where I will pull the technology, I will sit in the function. Then I joined Cipla. So if you see, I have moved 360. I have started my career from supply chain, move into consulting, move into the IT partner, and move back into the supply chain. 360-degree view, but the benefit is that I have seen every role and every function and how it operates, and the kind of experience in this journey I got is immense. And today is a situation when I discuss with my IT counterparts or my partners, the leverage of technology, we can do much better because of their experience as well as my experience combined together and create a resonance.
So you have some great opportunities and great experience, I think, over the past 24 years or so in your career. Now, during these journeys, I'm sure you must have had some highs and lows. So do you have any memory or remembrance about something which is high, something which is low, which you like to share with your listeners so that they get the experience and they know what to look for, what not to look for?
I mean, so it depends on the individual aspiration. So my aspiration was definitely always a learning mode. I'm not a person who are 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 looking for a quite fast growth or a great growth. I like what I want to do the most rather than a job title or a job position. And you should be ready for that. Sometimes the level of experience uh, when I taken a step back, when I moved to the consulting role, there were quite a set of good people lesser than in my age with the same level, in fact, senior to me. But that is okay because you should be flexible and you should enjoy. One should enjoy. That is my feeling. You should enjoy what you are doing and you are learning because whatever we are earning is sufficient for our day-to-day life. I mean, uh, we should enjoy and we should learn continuously. And that if that gives you a satisfaction, then nothing like it. So my suggestion is that uh, the titles, the temporary growths, if are coming in a way of your bigger objective, in your bigger learning, because nothing is permanent. And I mean, uh, uh, when you will leapfrog, the experience is one thing which can never go away. And the technology is changing so fast that if you are expert in one field today, that will continue forever might not be true. So you have to continuously innovate yourself and continuously learn and try to be that in a job position which is in line with your aspiration. Don't go only with the title. My only suggestion is that the thing that I mean, try to anticipate that what is future, what exactly kind of future roles are coming up, and be prepared for that. Even if you have to sacrifice a couple of job titles, a couple of promotions for that, do that.
Thank you. I think you have a very different kind of an advice. So one question I have, you've done so many projects. What are common things that projects have which our listeners should know what to expect in a project, especially S&OP implementation project?
Uh, I miss your first part, sir. Yeah, just can you say again?
I'm saying that usually this project implementations have some common outcomes or characteristics or so an S&OP implementation also would have something like that. So there is some insight our listeners can get of what processes to expect, what to expect will happen in a S&OP implementation.
So definitely, I mean, in S&OP implementations, definitely there are a lot of challenges may come up in the initial phases of the implementation. It is again should be the top driven. I'll tell some of the key pointers which one should or any organization should consider while they are in the phase of maturing their S&OP processes. One is the formats, the input and output formats should be standardized organization wide to the great extent if possible. If it is not too much of a requirement of having a variations. The second thing is that every decision making should be based on the data, not based on the emotions or gut feeling. And the third thing is that uh, accept the reality. If some of your assumptions has gone wrong, please be open about it, accept it, and try to understand the reasons why these assumptions has gone wrong, and try to fine tune your future assumption, build the future assumption based on the past learnings. So don't be defensive in terms of proving and accept the reality and go for the fact finding rather than the fault finding. If you do that, then your S&OP process maturity will, improve at a continuous pace. And last but not the least, leverage technology better. I have no hesitant to say that the technology has advanced more than the capability or digestion power of the organization today. And more we can do that, better our output of S&OP processes will be. Just again, I repeating that there are hundred of strategies available for a different product portfolio. I am not saying that you have a different strategy for every different product, but we have to divide our product portfolio into 4 or 5 major buckets and define the strategies, the best suitable strategies according to that. Discuss with the consultants openly, try to understand what it's saying, and spend much more time on the project in the as is defining phase and design phase, uh, than rather than just driving into implementation mode. Yeah.
So one question I have is, what is your advice to our listeners? What can they do for their career growth? Is there something that you can advise them? And I mean, everybody aspires to be supply chain head, but eventually, can they become a CEO? What should they do? And they have to become fast.
Ravi sir, I think what is the industry trend says is that this is again my question as well in my mind, and I have asked many experts. Sometimes I discuss with you as well. But I think definitely the trend was not that you have never seen much of a CEOs which are from the supply chain background. And you will see generally a trend of a finance background or marketing background. Those are the functions uh, which occupy the top seat more often. But the trend is changing. The trend is changing now. The organization, everybody has realized the power of supply chain, and supply chain itself has matured so much that the kind of sophistication has built into the supply chain design and supply chain execution. And people are realized that supply chain are not only within the organization, it is much beyond that. And it is not the organizations are competing with each other. It is the one supply chain is competing with another supply chain. Now, this type of realization is already happened in the industry, and people with the supply chain expertise are taking growth in the organization ladder very fast. This trend is already visible. You see the example of Amazon, at what rate they are growing, but what they are doing, they're the supply chain. This is completely the supply chain, nothing else. And what they are doing, they, they are hiring only the supply chain experts. Now, what is it's just one thing which I want to you know uh, clarify over here is that it does not mean that supply chain functional become a CEO. The other way of looking into it is that whether who is sitting at a top position is giving the importance to the supply chain. So the person sitting at a top position might be from the finance background, but if that person is giving the due importance which supply chain deserve, in terms of the projects, the importance, the cost efficiencies, the digital transformation, then that is treated as a supply chain person only, because he is spending his, even if his background is finance or marketing or sales, but he is spending his most of time, 80%, 60% of the time in supply chain process improvement and supply chain design. It means it is a win of supply chain itself. So it is if you see the CSCP course, all this course is completely covers all the marketing fundamentals, the IT fundamentals, the finance fundamentals, which needed for a supply chain manager to succeed. So in short, supply chain, along with the digital, along with the uh, uh, with the open mind, is having a great future. Marketing finance, we as a supply chain professional can learn faster than any operational guy and any finance guy can learn the supply chain great nitty-gritties in great detail. The today's supply chain are not that simple as used to be in the past. So the time will change and there is a great future for supply chain professionals. That is my firm belief.
Great, wonderful. So, Nistush, do we have questions from listeners? Do we have a lot of questions? Depending on that, I will proceed further.
So first of all, thanks a lot for such an insightful session, Mr. Vipul. It was great to listen all the things that is happening in the real world out there. So we do not have a question. Oh, okay. So we've just got a question from Mr. Shiva. So he says, does CIPLA apply DDMRP concept? If yes, how has it been executed? What was the challenge and what was the challenge in the implementation? And if not, is CIPLA planning to implement DDMRP? How will that play a role in pharma sector?
So Shiva, good question. I think I will not be able to specify the company specific strategies what we are doing, but I will answer you a question in general. What I say is that it is not about, as I said, that one strategy fits all. If you see a pharma product portfolio, there are runner products, there are OSD products, which are there are prescription based products, there are seasonal products. So there are different characteristics of the product portfolio. And if I define the characteristic, there are functional characteristics, uh, there are therapy related characteristics. So all this we have to do a product categorization or classification. And based on that, the respective strategy need to be selected. It cannot be that, okay, this company is doing that strategy or not. No, it will not work because it should be product characteristic driven.
There is one hand which is raised.
Yes, thank you.
Abdul Basit
So
Singh.
I'm going to ask Mr. Abdul Basit
Yes,
to ask a question.
thank you, sir, for sharing this insightful session. I have just one question. Maybe Ravindra sir already asked you, but the thing is still from our company also we are we are in the process of implementing IBP and OP, and we have the same challenge. Like the mightier or the heavier department wins the S&OP game. Uh, in past. So how can I avoid? How can we avoid? How what are the steps to be taken to avoid this happening when we go ahead with IBS and OP?
So my suggestion is that this happens in every company and you should be patient. I mean, every organization should be patient enough and should divide the journey of implementation adoption into phases. Uh, when we have implemented IBP, what is our success criteria of the first 2 months? We have kept that even the planners have login into the system, have done nothing is a success for the first 2 months. I mean, you have to, this is a journey and you cannot, that's why what I suggest is that make a minor milestones that these are the milestones step by step we will achieve. Definitely the change management take times. The only thing you have to take care is that your design should be perfect. If your design itself is not right, then you cannot put everything on change management. That is number one. I mean, get it verified with all the stakeholders that this is the right design for the right product category. If your design is right, definitely you will face even then the change management issue, but uske liye you have to a little bit of a segregate your journey of adoption with setting up the different milestones, come up with the data, be patient with the people, have one-to-ones with the critical stakeholders, explain them, because sometimes people feel that it is, and definitely, I mean, it is a journey. I mean, definitely it is a journey, and distribute this whole journey into the minor milestones and go ahead. You will achieve success.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
So if I may,
So
if I may add, there is in every project, I mean, not only S&OP, in every project, there are two things. One is the subject matter expertise. One is project management itself. Subject matter expertise, I think, as Vipul said, the design has to be perfect, right? But then there is a project management challenges, but he talked about one-to-one. So you have to sit with people, coax, cajole, have chai with them, have coffee with them. You have to be very, very friendly. I mean, change management is not really easy. Everyone has their own egos, everyone has their own interests. So you have to see through. It's not an easy thing. It's not everybody can do change management successfully. But a good project manager can definitely see through people's agenda, their interests, their and iron that
Priorities.
out. So that is very important. Subject matter expertise, I think that is also very important. So there are two different things, and both these expertise need not be in the same person. That is not required. They can be two different people. If subject matter expertise also has very good people skill, that is wonderful. That is the best situation to be in. But if not, there has to be somebody who handles people issues. There has to be people who handle subject matter expert issues. Am I correct, people?
Agree, sir. Agree. Completely agree.
Nicely put, sir.
Thank you.
perfect, great. So if we have any other question, you may please feel free to probably unmute yourself and speak up, or you can just post it in the chat box also. All right. If not, then you can always connect with the the speakers on LinkedIn. I have shared the LinkedIn profile with you on the chat box. And, on that, we'll just close the session. Thank you so much, Vipul sir, for joining in as the guest speaker. Thank you, Ravi sir, for once again hosting the wonderful session. It was great to listen from the experts. I'm sure the audience would have a lot to take away from this. Thank you everyone for joining in on a Saturday. I hope you have learned from the session. If you enjoy watching SCM Talk Show, please spread it among your friends, and please do follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and our YouTube channel to stay updated with the upcoming episodes. The next episode will be on 7th of May. The topic and the speaker will be revealed very soon for that. So keep following us on LinkedIn to have the updates. Apart from that, thank you everyone and have a great weekend ahead.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a great
Thank you,
week.
Nishtu. Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye bye.